right, it's filming.
Not just a Cub fan, White Sox fan, Brewer fan. I don't care what hat you wear. You gotta be a Ernie Banks fan.
Yeah.
So, I think we should have a moment of silence for Ernie Banks. Okay, thank you.
Let's drink too.
Let's have two meetings. Let's get two. We got two speakers, right? That's one thing we got. So, but we got a lot of presentations. And anybody see Ernie Banks play when he just came up? We got to always have a whole group with a SABR group. Why don't you come up and share it? Come on.
Who remembers him as a shortstop?
Yeah, that's share your memories. I mean, that's what SABR's about.
Well, my first Cubs game at Wrigley was in July 1955. So Ernie was shortstop. Gene Baker was the second baseman. They had just began to integrate the ball club. I think the White Sox had beaten them to it. Can't remember who, but yeah, the first real games that I remember was Memorial Day, 1956. Great doubleheader. Ernie did get a chance to play too. Braves came down. First game. Russ Meyer was pitching, and top of the first, he had a little trouble. Gave up 3 straight home runs. Then I think he hit Billy Bruton, and there was one quail of a good fight on that one. Somehow I think the Cubs won that game but lost the second game, which against the Braves, 500 was great. But I was there for many games, many doubleheaders. First, my parents would take me in the game, take me the train to Chicago and the subway up north. Later on, when I got to drive, I would drive, and that's back in the days when you find places to park there. You didn't have to mortgage a house. And I remember especially the '69 season for a couple of reasons. One, I was in school in Drake University in Des Moines, and the Iowa Oaks had just come to life as the American Association had been resurrected. So I'd go out to their games during the night, during the week, come touring town, drive in to see the Cubbies on the weekends. And by that time, of course, Ernie was at first base, and I can relate to seeing him for not 53 or 54, but for the rest of the years it was like, or maybe a year too long. Obviously, he needed 7 so I could get the 500 home run, and it was ironic, although Mays nearly passed him by then, but we stopped with home runs. It was at 512, and that beat the record that existed in the National League when he came up, and it was 511 by Milan. So I was able to at least move up a little bit on that home run listing.
And all steroid free.
So, that was my thoughts, at least.
I wanted to say a word. I'm Rich Hansen from the Chicago chapter. Those of you who know me know I grew up a White Sox fan. I'm quite proud I brought my World Series cap here today. But you couldn't help but have a lot of respect for Ernie. One of you were Cubs fan, and I think the Sox Fest last weekend where this news broke was widely regarded. I certainly remember, being growing up there, come home from school, I come home from lunch and watch Bozo, come home after school, come on the Cubs. That's how I grew up.
He bozos? Bozos at Wrigley.
So, yes, obviously, I grew up with Jack Brickhouse, obviously, the voice, and I remember at 70, it was just one of those days coming home, turning it on, and, seeing him hit his 500th home run, so hearing that he replayed all week long certainly, brings back a memory of hearing that, and I never saw him as a shortstop. Class act, the fact that he stayed in Chicago his whole life after that, and was always a spokesman, and could read any audience, sign any autograph. That speaks volumes. So, anyway, welcome to all of you. Richard, do you know, is Lorena coming?
I'm not, I thought she was, so I've been holding off. If she doesn't come, I'll talk later about the convention.
Obviously, there's a little convention coming up in a few months at the Palmer House in Chicago, and Lorena Kennard is leading the effort, and working closely with Richard and myself and several other people. So we'll give you an update. The registration is open, and so take advantage.
Thank you. I introduce David from Chicago chapter. He's going to introduce our guest speakers. So we'll get after today.
Hey y'all, David Miller, Chicago chapter. First speaker is Ozzie Guillen Jr., the obvious son of Ozzie Guillen.
Well, good morning, guys. So it's really cool seeing some Cubs fans and White Sox fans in here together, Milwaukee fans, and some Cardinals fans, and they're not beating off each other. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to be here. Last week, I was actually at a convention for financial advising, and that's what I do now in my new life. And it was so boring. I was looking forward to talking to a bunch of guys about baseball. That's my passion and my family. So I'm glad that I'm here. So again, I'm Ozzie Guillen Jr., oldest son of Ozzie Guillen, World Series manager of the Chicago White Sox, obviously. But I've been around baseball my whole life. Grew up, was born in Las Vegas during my father's tenure in AAA, and then grew up inside a clubhouse. So I've seen a lot of interesting things, a lot of good players. Baseball's in my family. It's a passionate thing. A couple of my aunts are married to baseball players. In my career, I started off working in the clubhouse for a pretty good team, Atlanta Braves in the 90s. And then the Marlins in the 2003 team. That was my last year as a club attendant. Then I came over to Chicago, interned for the White Sox, team translator for the 2005 World Series, 2006 team, and then that's when my broadcasting career started. I was in the booth for 8 seasons, was fired afterwards, let go, not renewed your contract, whatever you want to say, after Ozzie Guillen father, went down to Miami. Then I worked a little bit with the Marlins, attended scout school, wanted to start my passion in baseball operations. And as you might well know, he was fired from there also. Therefore, I followed afterwards. So during that time is when I changed my career in baseball and got into financing. I still own a marketing company called Triple Crown Agency, so I can still a little bit in the game. But the game is changing. The game is changing in the sense that I was talking to Mauricio right now. One of the things I wanted to bring up, I don't know if Ernie Banks would have played in the sabermetrics era, because it would have not looked at how Ernie played, but how many walks and strikeouts Ernie would have gotten. And I came into a time in baseball in the 90s that with computer technology, I thought that baseball was too backwards. I thought that they didn't look enough at math, and how can they not look at analytics? And then the analytical came in. But now I think it's taken too much over the game of baseball. In that sense, some people here are going to say, you're going to say this because your father's no longer managing. But in baseball, what I like to consider Ozzie is an old school guy. Somebody that people think that he's ancient because he doesn't look at the numbers. But during his managerial tenure, he did look at the numbers, or what numbers were important. There's teams out there that are being built straight on analytics. And I don't think that's right. I think that somebody who's been scouting baseball for over 30, 40 years brings a knowledge to the table that is impossible to take away from. So I think the game of baseball right now in transitioning, one of the things that's dangerous for those old school guys is that it's going too much to the numbers. For example, you got guys running front offices, second and third in command. They have no baseball knowledge, but have an analytical degree from Harvard or Brown University. I think all the numbers can be crunched. And that's why I think that I'm scared of seeing the game of baseball change. Seeing, if a guy is good because he runs hard to first base, or how well does he play after the seventh inning. That's the baseball that I love, and I think the baseball that I'm scared that's going to be lost. I think the other issue in baseball, which players will probably kill me for bringing this up, I think contracts are getting completely out of hand. I think there's guys that earn it, there's a lot of guys that get paid a lot because they just have to make the minimum. And I think that obviously teams are making money with all the TV deals, but I'm scared to see how long this is going to last. And obviously everyone in this room is older than I am. You guys have seen a lot of strikes. But I think with the timing, I think the future, there might be another one. I don't think the union for the baseball team is as strong as it used to be. I can see the owners trying to use that against the team. But looking at some of these contracts and some of these spendings on some teams, it's really ridiculous. And that goes back to affecting the number one person in the game, which is the fan. I think that growing up, and now that I'm not in baseball, and sometimes I have to buy tickets, I see the cost. I see the cost of how much it takes a family to go to a baseball game. And, my brother, Ozzie Guillen, is playing independent ball for the Normal Home Builders. And I'm sitting there with my father, Ozzie Guillen, and he said, for the crap that the White Sox and the Cubs are putting, this was last year, are putting on, I'd rather drive up here to Normal or Schaumburg and watch these guys who are playing independent ball that are playing with more passion and pay $5, $6 a ticket, because at the end of the game, what I want to watch is baseball. So I think the game, the teams, they're doing a lot, bringing the fan in, but I think that's the number one thing and the most important thing to keep baseball alive is the fan. And I think getting into that point, I think there's been a huge disconnect between players and fans in the last 10 to 15 years due to social media, due to websites like drunkathletes.com, due to Instagram and a lot of issues going on. And I've seen that disconnect, especially from people like my father, who at first were very, very close with the fans and would take a picture anywhere and would not care what the fan would say or what would come out afterwards, to now being scared of, where am I going to take this picture? What is this fan going to post up of this picture? And that's been a huge loss, because I remember growing up, I grew up in Berwyn. It wasn't a big deal with fans and players. The people that were my parents' neighbors, they were fans. The kids that I went to school with, they were fans, and it wasn't that big of a deal of the athlete and the fan. Now I think there's a huge disconnect of that, and that hurts the game. Because at the end of the game, the fan's a person that comes in and pays that ticket. Two good things that I want to bring up. Both teams are going to be pretty good, Cubs and White Sox. I'm quite interested in seeing where that's going to turn out. But now I'm just going to give it up to you guys. I'm sure you guys have questions. I'll answer anything. I'm not going to back down on anything. I'm not scared of answering. So you guys seem like very knowledgeable baseball guys. I'm not a White Sox fan. I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm a baseball fan. When you've been fired from 3 different teams and you're only 30 years old, you start thinking about that you love the game of baseball more, and then you're not just a fan of one team.
We always like inside stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So being a clubby for those few years, can you give us your favorite player as a clubhouse, working the clubhouse, and probably the one that you say is your least favorite?
You know what? My favorite player would be the guy who was the best tipper.
And who is that?
Best tipper. I worked for a really good team in the Florida Marlins. They weren't very good on the field in 2002, but they were hell of tippers. You got guys like Preston Wilson and Cliff Floyd and Castillo, the second baseman. They were pretty good tippers. They get their cars, go get it washed. They were very generous. So bad team, but we're very generous tippers. I think the most fun I had, I think maybe because of my age group, and probably one of the best things I've ever seen assembled, and I learned a lot in baseball, and not only in baseball, but in my managing skills now, because I try to think what I do in my past, of what I've learned from great managers, because managers are leaders, they just put a uniform on. So what I do now in life, I manage agents, financial advisors, I work for New York Life, and I try to bring those skills, because I have a bunch of guys on my team that have family issues, and I'm trying to make them as best as they can be. Working for Bobby Cox was really cool. And the 1998 Marlins and 99 Atlanta Braves. Due to the fact that even the way that his clubhouse was constructed, most clubhouses are constructed in a like a room like this. Atlanta Braves, I don't know if they changed it, but during the late 90s it was a circle. So everyone would have to look at everyone's eyes in the clubhouse. So if Bobby would talk, he would be in the middle of the clubhouse. So you couldn't hide as a player in the dimension. So everyone was kind of an equal. So you couldn't have like a corner, usually the veteran guy has a corner, locker room, and he's there. And during the meeting, he can just, kind of fizz away from like the team circle. And I thought it was really cool that it was a circular, and every player was, equal in the lockers. And again, that comes when you have so many great guys, a couple Hall of Famers, and one of the worst players is Ozzie Guillen, who's got 14 years plus in the big leagues. That's a pretty good team. So learning from that aspect was really cool. And I think that also on that end, working for those guys was fun. A lot of funny jokes. I think guys, I never had one guy that I didn't like working for. I think that there's guys that kind of keep to themselves. You see attitudes. There's a couple players I think that talk a big game, but don't back it up. And I think that's the one thing that bothered me the most. Guys that would come in, and when they were playing awesome, they were the best guys ever, and they were on top of their game. And when they were losing and they were not playing, they were miserable, and they hated everyone, and they would root against their teammates and not be good. A couple of those players, one of them not to mention, but they were part of the White Sox, no longer part of that team. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like when you say I'm a real tough guy and then you're not really tough. So I like guys like Paul Konerko, like not a big speaker, but you know what he's going to bring to the table every day. It's not a lot. It's not very fast. Okay defensively, pretty good hitter, but you're going to get the same thing